When Sarah handed over her card to cover a stranger's gas at a rural station, she didn't know he was a Hell's Angel. The next morning, the roar of dozens of motorcycles outside her home left her frozen in disbelief. Sarah was at the only gas station in her small town of Crestview, a quiet place where everyone knew each other's business. It was late afternoon, the kind of day where the air felt heavy with summer heat. She was filling up her old sedan when she noticed a man at the pump next to her, rummaging through his pockets with growing frustration. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a weathered leather vest covered in patches, his beard streaked with gray. His motorcycle, a gleaming Harley, sat quietly beside him. Sarah overheard him mutter something about a lost wallet, his voice low but tense as he patted down his jeans one more time. The cashier inside was already eyeing the man suspiciously, and Sarah could sense the situation might escalate. She'd seen enough small-town standoffs to know how quickly things could turn sour. Without overthinking it, she stepped forward. "I got it," she said, holding up her credit card. The man turned, his eyes narrowing, sizing her up. Sarah was in her mid-40s, a single mom who worked as a nurse at the local clinic. She wasn't flashy, jeans, a plain t-shirt, her brown hair pulled back in a messy bun. But her voice was firm, and her offer was genuine. "It's no trouble," she added, waving off his hesitation. The man stared at her for a moment, then nodded. "Thanks," he said gruffly, his tone more surprised than grateful. Sarah paid the $20 for his gas, exchanged a quick nod, and went back to her car. The cashier, a young guy named Tim who'd known Sarah since he was a kid, raised an eyebrow but said nothing. As Sarah drove off, she saw the man climb onto his bike, the engine roaring to life. She didn't think much of it after that. Kindness was just part of who she was. She'd paid for strangers' groceries before, helped neighbors with flat tires. It was just another day. The next morning, Sarah was sipping coffee in her small living room when a low rumble shook the windows. At first, she thought it was a truck passing through, but the sound grew louder, deeper, like a storm rolling in. She set her mug down and peered out the front window. Her breath caught. There were motorcycles, dozens of them, lining up along her quiet street. Men in leather vests, some with bandanas, others with sunglasses, dismounted and stood in a loose formation on her lawn. Her heart raced. Crestview wasn't the kind of place where this happened. Her first thought was trouble, but none of the men looked angry. They were just there. Sarah's teenage daughter, Mia, poked her head out of her room. "Mom, what's going on?" she asked, her voice tight with worry. Sarah didn't have an answer. She stepped onto her porch, her hands fidgeting with the hem of her sweater. The man from the gas station was there, front and center, his vest unmistakable. He stepped forward, holding something in his hand. It was a small envelope. "You Sarah?" he asked, though it was clear he already knew. She nodded, her throat dry.
"Yeah."
"What's this about?" The man introduced himself as Ray, a member of the local Hells Angels chapter. His tone was respectful, almost formal. He explained that her act of kindness at the gas station had caught his attention. "We don't forget when someone does right by one of us," he said. He handed her the envelope. Inside was $200 in cash, 10 times what she'd paid for his gas. Sarah tried to hand it back, but Ray shook his head. "It's not just about the money," he said. "It's about respect." Before Sarah could respond, Ray gestured to the group behind him. The other bikers, about 30 in all, stepped forward one by one. Each introduced themselves, names like Bear, Taz, and Doc, and thanked her. Some shared brief stories. A single mom who'd helped one of them with a flat tire years ago, a diner waitress who'd given another a free meal during a rough patch. They weren't just there for Ray. They were there because Sarah's small gesture had reminded them of the kind of decency they valued, even if their rough exterior didn't always show it. Sarah was floored. She'd expected maybe a thank you, not a parade of bikers at her doorstep. Mia, now standing beside her, was wide-eyed, her phone forgotten in her hand. Ray explained that their chapter had a tradition. When someone showed unexpected kindness, they made it a point to return it, not just with money, but with a show of solidarity. "You didn't have to help me," Ray said. "But you did. That means something." The bikers didn't stay long. They handed Sarah a small patch, a token from their chapter, not an official Hell's Angels emblem, but a symbol of gratitude. Ray told her if she ever needed help, car trouble, a favor, anything, she just had to call. He gave her a number, written on the back of a business card for a local auto shop. Then, one by one, the bikers got back on their bikes, the engines roaring as they pulled away. Sarah and Mia stood on the porch, watching the last of them disappear down the street. Word of the event spread fast in Crestview. By the next day, neighbors were stopping by, curious and a little awestruck. Sarah didn't know how to explain it without sounding like she was exaggerating. She tucked the patch away in a drawer, unsure what to make of it. Mia, on the other hand, couldn't stop talking about it, telling her friends at school about the biker army that showed up at their house. Sarah just smiled and shook her head. She wasn't one for attention, but she couldn't deny the warmth she felt knowing her small act had meant so much. Over the next few weeks, Sarah noticed small changes. The auto shop in town, the one on Ray's card, gave her a discount on an oil change without her asking. A neighbor mentioned seeing a biker drop off a box of groceries at the community center. Sarah never called the number Ray gave her. She didn't need to. But knowing it was there gave her a strange sense of comfort. Crestview felt a little smaller, a little closer after that day. Ray and his chapter didn't show up again, though Sarah saw him once more at the gas station a few months later. He nodded at her, a small smile breaking through his gruff exterior. She nodded back, and that was that. Life went on. Work, school, the usual routine, but Sarah carried the memory of that morning with her. A single act of kindness had brought a community of strangers to her door, not with trouble, but with gratitude. And that was something she'd never forget.